So today, inshallah, we will continue 7.2. We will finish it today, inshallah. We have here three parts in this section. What are the addition and subtraction formulas? We already done with this part. Evaluating expression involving inverse trigonometric functions. Also, we have finished this part. Today, inshallah, we will take this part, which is, by the way, related to the ones that we have mentioned before. So now, if you remember, Shabab, we have like 6 formulas. And if you add to them, of course, cosecant and secant and cotangent, they will be 12. So I combine them for you, the addition and subtraction formulas. I combine them for you at once to be at the same formula. So if it is addition here, you have addition here. If it is subtraction, it is subtraction. Here it is the opposite in the case of cosine. If it is addition, here it is subtraction. If it is subtraction, it is addition. And of course, the same can be applied for tangent. So these are the formulas, the addition and subtraction formulas that we have studied yesterday. What we are going to do today, we will study this formula that is called the reduction formula. We have mentioned, of course, this in the previous class. I will not repeat it. Today, why we need the reduction formula? Let me ask you this question, Shabab. If you have f of x equals to negative sine 2x, what is the range? What is the range of this function, Shabab? Anyone? What is the range? Yasir, I cannot hear you. Are you talking? No one knows, ya Shabab, what is the range of this function? Are you kidding, ya Shabab?
-1 to 1?
Of course. If you have a Shabab sine x, or cosine x, or even sine kx minus p, even if you have horizontal shifting and stretching, the range of this, ya Shabab, تكفون. Okay, I'm so afraid about you. الله المستعان. إن شاء الله لأنكم موفقين الليلة. يا شباب ما حد متذكر إنه قلنا لكم لما عندك هذه الفانكشن c plus a sine k x minus b or cosine طبعا. The same can be applied for cosine. What is the range?
نكتب a
up to the absolute value of a plus c. Did I mention this, Shabab? It was very clear. And we have also used this in the secant and cosecant, the same idea. So in general, this is, if you have a function like this, this is how to find the range. Okay? So let's go back to to this, for example. I told you that for this function, what is this a? What is the coefficient? It is 1. So it will be, of course, there is no c is 0. So for this function, the range will be from negative infinity to infinity. Who said from, sorry, from negative 1 to 1? Who said that? I forget who said that from negative 1 to 1?
Me, Doctor.
Yusuf. Ahsante, Yusuf. Thank you, Yusuf. Now, what about this, ya Shabab? If I ask now, let me ask you this question now. What about f of x equals to square root of 3 cosine 2x? What is the range? Anyone other than Yusuf?
Yes, doctor, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, sir. I can hear you now.
Yes, it's from root 3 to negative root 3.
Again?
Root 3 to negative root 3.
Is this practical, Yasser? Are you sure about this?
No, it's incorrect. It won't be because it exceeds the 1 and negative 1.
We don't know that. We don't do this, Yasser. There is something. There is a technical mistake here. A huge technical mistake. When we have intervals, Yasser, are we going to write from 2 to 1, or from 2 to 0, or from 2 to negative 2? Are we using this notation?
No. Negative root 3 to root 3.
Yes. Be careful, ya Shabab, please. Always when you have interval, the smaller one will be to the left and the bigger one to the right. Yeah, Shabab, please be careful. Okay, so you are right. So you know how to sketch the graph. If I ask you to sketch the graph of this, it is not difficult. If I ask you to sketch the graph of this one also, it is not difficult. Now, what about if the question here, this one, look at this now. The question is, what is the range? And sketch the graph. How to do that? This, of course, the main idea behind this. How to find the range? How to find also the amplitude? What is the amplitude here, Shabab? What is the amplitude?
It's -1, I think.
الامبليتيود ما يكون نيجاتيف يا
One.
شباب.
It's one.
اختبار الليلة الابسولوت. The amplitude is the absolute value of -1. It is 1. What is the amplitude here? The amplitude here is the absolute value of square root of 3. It is square root of 3. Please, ya shabab. What is the period? The period here is what? What is the period?
Both
It is
is pi.
2 pi over 2 over k. So it is pi. What is the period here? So the period here is what? 2 pi
The
over
same.
2 is also pi. Okay, also here, if someone asks you what is the period for this function? By the way, for the period here, you have the same angle here, the same angle here. So also the period will be 2 pi over 2. We will see that, of course, together. But you cannot decide from here. We need to wait until we have the reduction formula. So to be able, Shabab, to sketch the graph of this function and to find the range, the amplitude, all the related properties for this kind of functions, when we have a combination of sine and cosine, we need what is called the reduction identity. It is not mentioned in your book with the same name. In your book, they call it with this formula. Okay. Now, if you have a combination, a linear combination of sine and cosine, what can you do about it to know everything about it? So let's start, ya shabab, with something we know. How they thought about that? They said, for an instance, for example, if I have a half sine x plus square root of 3 over 2 cosine x. What is this? If you notice, this is cosine pi over 3, and this one is sine pi over 3. So according to the addition formula, this will be what? This will be sine x plus pi over 3. Do you remember the addition formula for sine? It is sine alpha cosine beta plus sine beta cosine alpha. This is exactly what we have. So look what happens, ya shabab. I have a constant multiplied by sine plus a constant multiplied by cosine. I can write it as what? As a single function of sine. Mafi cosine, it disappears here. So this is why they call it reduction, because we reduced the expression from two functions, sine and cosine, to only one function of sine with some shifting, of course, with horizontal shift to the left. So they got the idea from here. So they said, what about if I have any constant, not necessarily a well-known angle, sine or cosine? What about if I have a sine plus b cosine? Of course, it must be the same angle here. What I can do about that? So let's assume that, of course, a is a real number, b is a real number. So let's say that this is the point a and b. Of course, here we will have b, here we will have a, and the distance from the origin to this point will be the square root of a squared plus b squared by Pythagorean theorem. Now, let's call the angle that we have here, let's call it phi. Any angle, we give it a name phi. It is clear, ya shabab, that sine phi here will be the opposite over the hypotenuse, and of course the cosine will be the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Now, what I will do to, طبعا this is from where we get the idea. It is not, of course, this is just for people who are interested. Now I have a sine plus b cosine. Look what I will do. I will just multiply by this and divide by the same number. Just I will multiply by 1, but a hero one, this one. I will put the numerator here and I will distribute the denominator over the two quantities, the two terms that I have. Now this one is what? This one is what? This one is sine phi and this one is cosine phi. So I will replace them. Just this one is cosine phi, this one is sine phi. Look at what I have now. I have now the addition formula for what? For sine. So I will just write it the square root of a squared plus b squared sine x plus phi. And I reduced this expression from two functions to one function only. So to summarize, we have this. If we have a and b are real numbers, then we can write a sine x plus b cosine x as k sine x plus phi. What is k? K is the square root of a squared plus b squared. What is phi? Phi, it is the angle that its cosine is a over k and its sine is b over k. This is just what we have done here, but I just call this, I called this one, we called this one k. And everything here is just a summary for the previous work. So let's now, ya shabab, apply it for this exercise. Now write cosine x minus sine x in this form. So this is the reduced form. How to do that? You need to compare it with the standard form. You need to ask yourself, what is a, ya shabab? What is a? What is a, guys? Compare between this and this. A is 1. B is?
-1.
No, wrong. Is that right? There is a trick here. Be careful. What is A? A is the coefficient of what? Is the coefficient of sine. A is the coefficient of sine. What is the coefficient of sine here?
A -1.
A is -1. Be careful, shabab. And B is 1. Okay? So be careful. Because when you compare a shabab, you use your eyes. This is not math, by the way, in a way. So A is -1, and the best way, if you want to compare, write it in the same order. So it will be like this. Now you have sine at the beginning, cosine at this, after that. Okay, so we have A and B. What we need to do, we need to find K. What is K? Now, K will be the square root of a squared plus b squared. It will be the square root of 2. Now I'm ready. I have K. This is good. Now what I need more, I need what? Phi, this angle. So to find phi, by the way, shabab, if I asked about the range, let me just make it clear. If I ask about the range, what is the range of this function? If it is a function, if y equals to cosine x minus sine x, my question will be about the range. What is the range? Now, with this form, I cannot decide what is the range. But now I know that this will be equals to what? K sine, what is the angle here? The angle here is x plus some angle phi. I need to now find what is it. Now, I did find K, shabab. This is K. So whatever is this, whatever it is, it will not change the range. So what will be the range, ya shabab? What is the range of this function? It will be the same as the range of this function. What is it? What is the amplitude? What is the amplitude, ya shabab?
√2.
Square root of 2, the absolute value of square root of 2, it's square root of 2. So the range will be from where to where?
-√2 to √2.
From the minimum to the maximum, ya shabab. Okay, so you don't need to find phi if you just want to find the range. But if you want to sketch the graph or to find the horizontal shift or you should continue. This is so important. So now let's see, shabab, find the angle. Now I did find K. This is done. Now I need to know what is phi. How to find phi, shabab? Use these. Use what is given for you here. What is given for you here? Cosine phi is A over K. So cosine phi is negative 1 over square root of 2. This is A, this is K. Sine phi is 1 over square root of 2. So what do you think? What is phi? To know what is phi, you need to know in which quadrant first. What do you think?
The
In which
second quadrant.
Cosine is negative, sine is positive, so it is in the second quadrant. So what is phi? What is this angle? If you want to know, just ask yourself what is the angle that its sine or cosine is 1 over square root of 2. What is it? It is pi over 4, but in the second, what is pi over 4 in the second? 3 pi over 4. This is the reference angle. So in the second quadrant, the angle that its sine and cosine are negative square root of 2 and square root of 2, it is 3 pi over 4. Is that clear, Shabab? This is not 7.2. This is chapter 5 and chapter 6. So this is phi. And of course, now what we have? Just I will go back to there. I will write cosine x minus sine x as the square root of 2 sine x plus 3 pi over 4. Now I reduced this expression from 2 functions to only 1 function. Now I can sketch the graph, Shabab. We can sketch the graph for this one. We can find the range. We can find the amplitude. We can find the horizontal shift. We can find the amplitude. We can find the period, everything. Let's take another example. Write this function. This is the one that we have started with at the beginning. In this form, then use the new form to graph the function. If you want to sketch the graph of this, it is not easy at all. If you want to find the range, you cannot decide what is the range easily. You cannot, of course, find the amplitude directly. So what you need to do, you need, of course, to write it in this form. So you need first to find what is A. A is the coefficient of what, ya shabab? Remember the formula. The formula is A sine x plus B cosine x. It is not necessarily x, whatever, theta, whatever the angle. The angle must be the same here. Here, it should be the same as this one. So now, B is the square root of 3. K will be the square root of the sum of the squares. It will be 2. So I have A, B, K. So now I can see that f of x will be K sine. What is the angle? The angle is 2x plus phi. Now, if I don't want to sketch the graph, if I want just to find the range, the amplitude, and these other stuffs, of course, what is K? K is 2. So now, if I'm asking about the range of this function will be from negative 2 to 2. But if we add a vertical shift, you can add it also here. If you want to find the amplitude is 2. If you want to find what? The period, of course, it is 2x. You have 2x here, so it will be 2 pi over 2. It is also pi. Now, if you want to sketch the graph, to continue sketching the graph, to find the horizontal shift, you need, of course, to find phi. What is phi? To find phi, you need to remember what is cosine phi. Cosine phi, shabab, from the formula, it is
A over K.
A over K. And sine phi is B over K. So here we are. Cosine is negative, sine is positive. Again, we are in the second quadrant because cosine is negative, sine is positive. What is the angle in the second quadrant that its cosine is negative ½ and its sine is square root of 2? Just think about this. In the first quadrant, for example, the reference angle. What is the angle that its sine is square root of 3 over 2? You can see clearly that it is pi over 3. Is that right? Pi over 3, this if we were in the first quadrant, so the reference angle is pi over 3. So what will be theta in the second quadrant? Theta in the second quadrant will be 2 pi over 3. Is that right, ya shabab? Please, you should be able to do these games. It is so easy. Now, So we have about this function written in this reduction. We reduced this expression from two functions to only one function with the help of the reduction formula. Now this function, you can get all the information that you need, what you want. You can, of course, if you want to sketch the graph, by the way, he asked, I think, yes, he asked for sketching the graph. So this is a sine curve with amplitude. The amplitude is 2, the period is pi, the horizontal shift is negative pi over 3. How, ya shabab, he obtained the horizontal shift negative pi over 3? How he knows that?
He took out the 2 as a common factor, and of course x plus pi over 3 is equal to 0, so it's negative pi over 3.
Method number one, put the argument equals to 0, solve it for x, you will get it. This is method number one. Method number two, as you mentioned, just write it in the standard form. What is the standard form? Take 2 as a common factor. The coefficient of x must be 1, and this will be plus pi over 3. If you compare it with the standard form, which is this one, k, but not the same k here. You have to be careful. X minus b. So you can see that p is negative pi over 3. So this is p. This is the horizontal shift. Great, ya shabab. So now we need to sketch the graph. What we need to do to sketch the graph? Yalla, shabab, it is good example to review the graphs of sine and cosine. So how to do that, ya shabab?
We will get the period first, which is 2 pi over 4.
Tell us the period is pi, the amplitude is 2. So the maximum here will be 2, the minimum will be negative 2. Okay. What else we need to know? What is the horizontal shift? What is b? B is negative pi over 3. So we will start the graph here at negative pi over 3. Where we will stop, ya shabab? We will stop, and what is the interval that we will sketch the graph on? We will start with negative pi over 3, and we will stop at negative pi over 3 plus the period. What is the period? Pi. So it will be the interval that we will sketch the graph on. It is from negative pi over 3 to 3 minus 2 pi over 3. Now we need to find now the 3 intervals that we have here. So we need to now, when we sketch the graph, we need 3 points here at the middle to find out what they are. How to find these points? It is good to think about the fourth of the period. What is the fourth of the period? It is pi over 4. So what you will do, you will add to this pi over 4. Then you will add pi over 4. Then you will add pi over 4. Or you can play the game of the midpoint. What is the midpoint? So which method, ya shabab, you prefer? You have to select one method and keep working on it until you be professional in that. Okay. So if you did that, you will have this one. These are the points that we have, ya shabab. Now this is negative pi over 3 that we have started with. This is the last one that we have stopped at. Okay. The next point, it is negative pi over 2. If you add negative pi over 3 plus pi over 4, this is what you have. If you add pi over 4 again, you will have this one. If you add it again, you will have the next one, and so on. Or you can use, of course, the midpoint idea that I told you about. Okay. Now, if we did that, this is the start of the interval. This is the start of the interval, the end of the interval. This is the start, this is the end. So we will sketch the graph from here to here. What is the graph? The graph is for what? For sine, you know the shape of the graph of sine. Here it is. Of course, you have to be careful. Midline, maximum, midline, minimum, midline. Now, you can continue, of course, by the same way. This is the graph of this function. This graph is also a shabab for this function. It is also the graph of this. So this is y equals to negative sine 2x plus square root of 3 cosine 2x. It is the same. They are equal to each other. Okay. Any question, shabab? Let's now take this old exam question. This is for you, shabab. Find the range. What is the range of this function? Find the range of this function. So easy. Let me launch polling for you so you can select the right answer. Take a pen and paper and start think, what is the range of this function? There is someone who is playing, of course. Two, there are two, they are playing. You have to be careful. Be careful when you select an answer, يا شباب. I can see that there are 4 students that choose an answer, but unfortunately it is not the right answer. Because they are not serious. They just choose any answer and let it go. I'm afraid that, يا شباب, that you are not slowing down, you are not thinking, you are not following the instructions. Okay, more time, يا شباب. We have only 5 students out of 17. Take your time, يا شباب. We have, of course, a quiz today, so at the end of the class.
Doctor, by the way, I typed the answer. I enter the answer, sorry.
You have to be careful because this may happen with you also tonight. This is also one of the
Inshallah.
to be careful about that, يا شباب. It is a very bad habit, يا شباب, to just run, do it and go. No, be careful, slow down, be careful. You have take your time. Take the full time, يا شباب, tonight. You have 2 hours. Take the full 2 hours. Revise, check, do everything. Finally, we have one student with the right answer.
There's something tricky about this question.
No tricky, just you use what I told you before, ya Muhammad. Yes, 3 students now with the right answer. Look, ya shabab, when you think, when you slow down, when you look at it, you can answer. You can get the right answer. So I will give you more time to work. I will give you more time to work on it, ya shabab. But let me just give you the general idea. Look, did I mention this? Of course, but just let me just make sure about that. I mentioned, ya shabab, this for Sine at the beginning of this class. And of course, not necessarily K, let's just, I don't want to confuse you. Whatever the angle is here, whatever, theta, whatever. Okay? What is the range of this? If you have a function like this, what will be the range?
Amplitude with the shifting.
Okay. So here we have this function that I have a combination of sine and cosine. So I need to use the reduction identity. Here, I need to write it like K sine x over 2, because the angle is x over 2, plus phi. I need to write this like this. And what is this? This is a vertical shift. So it is minus 3. You can write it here if you don't want to get confused. You can write it here like this. It is the same. So this is the function, ya shabab. So now with the closed eyes, the range of this function is what? The absolute value. K is positive, but let me just write it like that. K is positive. Why K is positive? Because it is the square root of a squared plus b squared. So let me just
-3
to -3 up to K plus 3. So where is the trick? The trick is, what is K? What is the coefficient? And it is not a trick at all. Just ask yourself, what is A? What is B? And K will be the square root of A squared plus B squared. So what is A, ya shabab? A is the coefficient of sine, so it is 1. What is B? The coefficient of cosine, which is negative square root 3 over 2. Square this one, it will be 1. Square this one, it will be 3. Add them, simplify. Square root of 4 is 2. So now you will go back here and say that the range of this function is negative 2, right, instead of k2. Negative 3.
But doctor, why is it k plus 3?
It is minus, not plus. This is a mistake, of course.
Okay.
Just plus c, ya shabab. It is clear, plus c. So this is indeed it is negative. K plus negative 3. So to make sure that you will not do a mistake. And this is k plus negative 3, plus the vertical shift. So this is minus. So we have closed negative 5 and negative 1. And the answer is C. Okay, Shabab. Now, I think I bought the solution here for you. Yes, I put it for you in all the exams with details, of course. This is, ya Shabab, the function. You need to write it like this. So the range will be negative k minus 3 and k minus 3. Now, to find k, you need just to find k. It will be, of course, as I told you, a squared plus b squared, which will be 2. So the range will be just from negative 5 to 5. So easy question. When you are asked about the range, you don't need to find phi, ya shabab. Look, we didn't find phi. We don't need it. Whatever it is, it will not affect the range. Any horizontal shift will not affect the range. Okay, but of course, if he asks about the horizontal shift, if he asks about the sketch the graph, you need, of course, to do that. Any question?
Teacher,
Yes.
actually, that was the trick I talked about when I said there's a trick. It was that we don't need to find the value of the horizontal shifting.
Yes. I thank you, Muhammad. I mentioned this, I think, in the first example. From the first example, I told you if you want to find the range, you don't need to find phi. There are many questions about this, of course, this type of tricks. Also, for example, the amplitude. If they ask about the amplitude for this function, you cannot decide from here. But after finding k, you can find what is the amplitude. The amplitude will be k because it will be the coefficient of sine. So also, if you want to find the amplitude, no need to think about phi. Whatever phi is, it will not change the amplitude. As Zubda, ya shabab, the summary is here of this section. So you have these formulas, the addition and subtraction formula, and you have the reduction formula. If you have a sine plus b cosine, the same angle, you can write it as k sine, the angle plus phi. What is phi? Phi, it is an angle that its cosine is a over k and its sine is b over k. What is a? A is the coefficient of sine, b is the coefficient of cosine, k is the square root of a squared plus b squared. That's it. Now, let me give you this in a short time. We can, inshallah, solve this one. Unfortunately, the time we still have only 5 minutes. So if alpha and beta are angles in standard position, this is good, so good, ya shabab, for the exam tonight to practice. If alpha and beta are angles in standard position with tan alpha equals to negative 3 over 4. And alpha in the second quadrant. Beta is 5 over 12 in the third quadrant. What is cosine alpha plus beta? طبعا the first part is from 7.2. So now cosine alpha plus beta is cosine alpha cosine beta minus sine alpha sine beta. This is 7.2. Now خلاص, no more 7.2. What is remaining, ya shabab, is 6.2, 5.3. How to do that? What you need now? You need cosine alpha, cosine beta, sine alpha, sine beta. Which one you have? You have tan alpha, you have tan beta. So you don't have any one of these. What you will do, Shabab, to find them?
We need the square root of the denominator and the
You can do it, ya shabab, in several ways, please. You can say from here, since alpha is in the second, you know that tan alpha is what? Y over x. So this means that y is what? In the second quadrant, y is positive. So y is 3, x is -4. You can find r, which will be 5. Is that right?
Yes.
Now you have, of course, you have everything about alpha. So cosine alpha will be x over r. Sine alpha will be y over r. So easy. Now for tan beta, the same. Tan beta where? Beta in the third. So this will be y over x. So this means that y here will be -5 and x will be -12. And you know what is r in this case. R will be what? 13. So, or you can sketch the graphs, ya shabab. You can sketch the triangles. So this is the triangle of alpha in the second quadrant. Find the remaining part. You can do the same for beta. Beta is in the third. This is -12, this is -5. And you can find, of course, the horizontal. But I prefer this way, shabab. By using this way, you will not forget the negative and positive signs. So use x and y and r is I think, more guaranteed than using the triangles. If you use the triangle, draw it in the right quadrant. Now, of course, you can find cosine alpha. Cosine alpha is the adjacent. This is what you have here is alpha bar. Here it is the reference. Here the reference angle. This is the reference angle, beta bar. Now it will be the opposite, the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Sine will be the opposite over the hypotenuse. For beta the same. For beta, of course, it will be the adjacent over the hypotenuse, the opposite over the simplify. Now simplify, خلاص. It is a matter of simplify. Done. This is the answer. This is the last ya shabab exercise that I'd like just to mention for you to just refresh your memory about using such identities. Ya shabab, they have sent an email yesterday. Please let me see if we still have something. Yes, there are many exercises here. So I will stop here, ya shabab, and stop recording.